This may be one of my favorite episodes and conversations. Not only is Hannah willing to talk to us about the different pivots she's made and the way joy has shown up in her life in hard times, but she has given us a very practical tool for finding out working geniuses beyond the assessment. This is something that you can use with your family. This is something you can use in the classroom. And if you really want to nerd out, bring it to game night and find out everybody's geniuses and then see how they show up. It was very enlightening for me. I was able to bring my children onto the episode and try out this activity that Hannah was graciously willing to share with us and obviously you, the audience. And my oldest had already taken the assessment. I knew that her geniuses were invention and discernment, but I was able to see the discernment shine as she was doing this activity. She definitely enjoyed the invention, but lit up with the discernment. My second, we already call her the admin of the family, Jocelyn, was thriving in tenacity. And Selah, I'm still a little on the fence about where she shows up in Genius World. I see discernment in the day-to-day, but when we sat down and rewatched this video, she claimed that tenacity was what she really enjoyed. So stay tuned. We'll see what her student assessment says in the next few years. JoJo, definitely the galvanizer through and through. I want you to look at this and see where you show up as well. And again, this is something you can implement right away in your environment. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to Pursuing Joy, where we discuss audacious stories of joy-infused strength. I am excited to have another guest in the education realm. So, Hannah, could you introduce yourself, where you're located, and how you're currently using Working Genius in your career?
Sure. Hi, I'm Hannah Clifton. I live in southeastern Massachusetts, and I teach middle school math at a tiny little Christian school in Barrington, Rhode Island. And I have been using Working Genius in my classes with my students, and also with faculty groups in different schools.
All right, awesome. Tell me how you first discovered Working Genius, or how it discovered you.
Yeah. So, I am on the elder board at my church, and we about 5 years ago hired a new pastor, and part of his big push at the beginning was figuring out the working geniuses and the enneagrams and different things for the elders and the staff to help him figure out how to work better with people because he was brand new. And so he had us read the Working Genius book, and then we all took the assessment and we discussed it. And I fell in love basically, and then I fell down the rabbit hole because I realized there was a podcast. So in Christmas break, like during Christmas break after I learned about it, I basically ignored my family and listened to all the podcasts. Like I binge listened
Binge
if
the podcast. Okay. Not
yes, because
Netflix. Is the Working Genius podcast, which I highly
right,
recommend as well.
yes. Because it was so interesting to me in terms of how to work better with people. And so that was, again, maybe it was like 4.5 years ago. It was really near the beginning of when they had kicked all of this off, when the table group had done all of these things. And so um, I've sort of now been following it since. I'm working at a different school than I was then now, but I've applied the same things to my work at this other school. So my family's all taken it. My husband and I have used it a lot.
Yes. And
um,
I
yes.
think churches overall could hugely benefit. I'm hearing this a little bit more and more, but back when I discovered Working Genius, I was not hearing it in the church sector. So I think it's great that your church decided to do that. I think it's a great tool for even volunteers if people
We
want
have
to invest in that.
Yeah, we've found it really helpful with volunteers because we really want them to be working in the areas that God has gifted them so that it's joyful and wonderful for them to be serving in those ways. And we really are trying to avoid volunteer burnout.
Ah,
So,
yes, that
yes.
is a true thing.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about, we don't want to volunteer people what to do. We want them to volunteer because it's something that brings them joy and energy, and they can serve God and serve others. So it's been really helpful for that.
Yes, awesome. All right,
Mhm.
tell me about kind of where you were in life when discovering Working Genius, some of the changes that have occurred, maybe because of Working Genius, maybe not, but where joy was showing up or not showing up, and how joy is an emphasis in your life now.
Okay, so, um, I have 2 kids. They're now 10 and 13, 2 boys, and when I first discovered Working Genius, they were 5th grade and 1st grade, maybe 1st grade. And so, they've sort of grown up hearing me talk about it. I was working at one school, now I'm working at another one, but, about almost 3 years ago now, I had never picked a word of the year before, and I really felt convicted that God was telling me, your word this year is joy." And I was like, "Ah, whatever, like, I'm a pretty content person, I don't really need it." But it was really convicting for me, and so, it was 2023. Nope, 2023 in January, and I picked that for the year, and then about 3 months later, my mother-in-law very suddenly and unexpectedly passed away. And it quickly became a
Mm.
very not joyful time in my life. And it was interesting to walk through all of that with this understanding of actually, I had that in place before the tragedy. And it sort of carried us through that to be able to find joy in what we were doing and what we were experiencing, even though we were walking through this really hard season in our life. So, in the course of that, also, I switched schools from a very, difficult place to work, a very toxic work environment, to a very joyful work environment with a lot of camaraderie and love and teamwork. So, there was this whole journey from the darkness into, "Oh, this is a gift that God is gonna give you at the end of this to find your joy again," basically.
Yes.
Yeah,
I have found that, the word having a word for the year is not an emphasis on you're going to experience that word for the year, but you are going to have opportunities to sharpen whatever that word is for you
yeah.
in the year. And 2023 was my word was joy also, so that's very
How interesting.
interesting.
Well, then when I this is funny, when I came to my new school, the teacher in the room next to me, her name is Joy.
Ah, yes, okay, I do remember you
Right,
telling me
so it
that.
showed
So
up
it's
and I was like, "What?"
all over. Uh,
Okay.
so what gave you, the courage, I'll choose a different word, to make the job transition?
So, I had actually, it was my old school was the first school that I worked at after staying home for 7 years with my kids, so it was like my reentry back into the workforce, and so it was good and bad, but it was in the fall of 2019. Well, in the spring of 2020, everything shut down. So, I hadn't worked in a school for 7 years, and then I go back, and all of a sudden, everybody's on a screen, and I was like, "What is this bananas world that I'm in right now?" Right?
Yeah.
So, um I think it was the end of the 2nd year, so, in spring of 2021, where I really was just like, "This is such a hard place for me to work." Every place is different. Every company has their own values and their own culture, and I didn't know ahead of time the kind of culture that I was walking into when I started working at that school. But as I learned more about the Working Genius, I started reading books on leadership because of my involvement in the church elder board. I started just sort of educating myself about what does it mean to be a good leader? How do we do this in a way that's honoring to God? And it just really became clear to me that the school where I was not interested in those same things. And so I actually looked for another job for almost 2 years. And God was telling me, "You need to wait, you need to wait." Well, because my kids were there.
Oh,
So
yeah.
my kids went to school there, I couldn't just up and leave, right? So
Mhm.
we didn't necessarily need the income, but we really did want our kids to be in a small private school. So that was a big part of it for me, that there was the sacrifice of, yes, I know that there is something else out there for me, but it's not yet time. You know?
Right.
So right. So that
What did you
was,
learn in that waiting?
that God always has a better plan. Because I interviewed at a lot of schools that, looking back on it now, would not have been a good values fit for me.
Okay, what did you
Um,
do, more of the same?
correct. And so there's other things I have to sacrifice for the new school, but it's not culture, it's not values, it's not fighting against a school culture with my own kids, right? So there's I learned how to breathe again professionally when I came here. You know, there was not no toxicity, everything was very clear. The administration was really on the same path that I was on in terms of leadership and self-awareness and learning things before I even joined. So, yeah.
Okay. What are your geniuses?
Invention and discernment.
Okay, so tell me how that shows up for you in personal and professional.
So, I think it serves me really well as a teacher in a small school. So I'm the only middle school math teacher at my school, which means I kind of work alone. I mean, I have to collaborate with the fifth grade teacher and the high school teacher, for vertical alignment of lessons and classes and things like that. But for the most part, I get to um, invent and discern my lessons all the time. And I can just do that in a
Okay.
continuous loop. And that's actually really fun for me. And so that, I think, really lends itself towards me just knowing that I can do the things that I need to do in my classroom. Um, in my personal life, my husband does not have discernment as a genius. And so because of that, he asks me for discernment in a lot of different things. Like
Okay. Is
he
it his
won't be able to.
frustration?
No, it's a
Okay.
competency, but
Okay.
he's a wonder tenacity. So
Oh,
he's
yeah, that was right.
yeah,
Oh, yes, I just quoted you recently because, yes, you had told me, I was on a group Working Genius, facilitation on the screen, and there was a WT there, and I asked him, I said, "Do you feel like you're experiencing a lot of turbulence? Because 'Cause I've
yeah.
heard this." And so explain that a little bit, as far as wonder to tenacity. So
It
wonder, so it's an altitude of geniuses, so
yes,
turbulence is going
right,
the top to the bottom very quickly. So
right.
explain how
So,
that
he
works in your home.
my husband is actually a TW, so his tenacity just shows up all the time,
Oh, okay.
but if he has a list of things that he knows he wants to get done, he's constantly, like, jumping from one thing to the next because he's like, "Well, I wonder if that one's more important, but actually I need to get this thing done over here, but I wonder if I have something else I need to add to my list, but I really wanna get this thing done." So, um, I can step into that with him and just, say, "If you need me to help, I can put these things in order for you."
Yes,
So
and you're in the
yeah,
middle. You're the I
correct.
and the D.
Yes, right. And so the discernment, that's a way that I use my discernment in my personal life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright. So tell me about Working Genius with the staff that you work with, and then also with the kids that you work with.
Okay, so I'll talk about faculty first because I did the activity that, a colleague and I designed. I did it with the faculty that I had worked with for 3 years already at my old school. So we knew each other really well, and, so I was able to do it there. And then I came to the new school and I didn't know very many people that well. I had only worked at the school for a couple months, but my head of school was really interested in Working Genius and wanted me to do it for professional development. So I stepped into that, and it was fascinating for me to watch my brand new colleagues who had worked with each other for a really long time, like, identify and affirm each other's geniuses and frustrations. Like, it was really clear that the activity had walked them through this enough so that, like, by the time the head of school said, "Well, I think my geniuses are this and this," and then I told them what the nickname was, everybody in the room was like, "That is exactly who this is." It was really funny.
Is this the
So
assertive, uh,
yeah, he's the GT,
GT?
so
Yes.
the assertive driver.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love using the nicknames in a group reflection because it, like, immediately puts, like, a personality to the genius words, right? So, like,
Oh, yeah.
galvanizing tenacity doesn't really tell you what that is, but assertive driver is like, the hammer.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, the assertive driver definitely needs, the discernment, and I feel like discernment, even though it's not categorized as a disruptor, I feel like it does disrupt the process in the sense of halting it in the middle of, "Bright idea, let's get it going. Wait, what do you should we really be doing this, or should we really be doing it this way?" And, it's like, screeching halt,
Right.
everybody stop, and the momentum I feel like that when I'm using my discernment, especially in a
Yeah.
meeting
One
environment.
of my One of my dangers is working on a team. I have to be really careful not to just disregard everybody else's ideas because I already know that mine are the best ones because I've experienced them already, right? Like, that is one of the dark sides of the inventor discerner
Nice,
is
okay,
I don't need anybody else's ideas.
that's
So,
right.
it's helpful for me to have either another inventor or another discerner to work with to say, "Have you considered this? Maybe you didn't think about this thing," right? So, yeah.
Okay, I can see that. Okay, okay, yeah, because yes, what is your birth order? Like, what order are
I'm
you
a
in?
second child
Your second
out
child,
of
okay.
4.
Out of 4, okay. Alright, okay, interesting. Alright, because yeah, I have 4, and my oldest is the ID.
Okay.
And she just, so let me see if you can identify with this. So she passive aggressively sent me this meme, um, and it was talking about how she, as the oldest, has, like, when I am correcting her or giving her direction ahead of knowing whether she knows what to do or not, that she's already vetted it. She's already had basically the idea and then vetted it, and that my input is not really necessary. And it can come across as, condescending and or
Yep.
not giving her enough credit for what's already happened in her head. Do you identify with that? Do you feel like, "Wait
Yes.
a second, just step back. I've got this."
Right. But for me, part of my journey to learn how to do it better, to lead with discernment sometimes instead of invention or to lead, to not be quite so in your face about it, has been trusted colleagues who have maybe they're a discerner enabler. And so they can come alongside me and say, "Did you consider that there's people in the room here that might have other things to say?" Or, but my working relationship with them already involves trust. We have the same values. We're working towards the same goal. So having other people to come alongside to stop me in that spot and say, actually, you might not be right. And that's okay. We still love
Right.
you and we want your input, but you got to give space for these other things to happen. So that's been part of my learning about how I come across to other people in my self-awareness in using working genius is how I can contribute better on a team, not just, this is just who I am.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's the whole if you know working genius in the capacity of the entire widget, then that it's giving you that language and that insight versus,
Yeah.
just taking an assessment and saying, "This is who I am, and you deal
Right.
with it.
Right.
This is how you show up on a team, and this is where you show up well." And I just envision, like, when with, wonder especially, and mine's wonder and discernment,
Right.
is, once we start getting down the altitude, I just think in my head,
We
We're
don't need to go back up.
we're not going back up, whether I'm thinking about someone else in the room with wonder or internally in myself. Okay, we just quiet down. That was your place to shine. Now we're gonna let others
Can I
proceed.
tell you a quick story about a student I
Oh, yeah.
had? After the reason I wanted to use the student activity with a class is because I was about to kick off a giant Rube Goldberg building, like, machine building project. So a Rube Goldberg machine is like a chain reaction machine where you build, like, the domino run, and then it runs into a marble, and then the marble goes down the
Oh,
hill
okay.
and hits the next thing and hits the next thing, right? So we were doing this as part of a physics unit in my 5th grade class, and it was gonna require that, like, the whole class work together to build the whole thing, right? So each grouping built a section. So I wanted them to identify their working geniuses first so that they would have the language to be able to say, "Oh, we actually need some creative dreamers right now to think about the whole thing. Like, maybe somebody could design it, draw it out. Let's draw it, and then we'll think about what the pieces are, and then we really need the loyal finishers at the very end to tweak everything and make sure all the dominoes are lined
Right.
up, right?" So I did this activity with this group of 5th graders, and we were doing after we had done it and they had talked about their working geniuses, we were doing a spider web discussion. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but basically, it's the students are in a circle and the teacher does not participate. There's like a question or there's a thing they have to discuss. But I sat on the side with a clipboard with a circle and I drew lines between each student as they talked to see, like, it's like drawing a map of the conversation.
Okay.
So there were maybe 15 students in this circle. Again, they were like 10 or 11 years old. And it was a brainstorming session. And one of the kids was silent almost the entire time. So we get to the end, and so then I talked about, "Okay, well, why weren't you speaking?" And he, said whatever he said, and the other kids were kinda giving him a hard time for not saying much. And then I looked at his working geniuses, and he's an ET. And I said, "Oh, Sam, were you just sitting there saying, 'When can I help already? Like, can we finish talking about
Right.
this so that we can just get going?'" And he was like, "How did you know that's what I was thinking?" And the other kids were like, "Oh, we're gonna need him at the end. Like,
Yes.
it's okay that he's here, but he didn't say anything because his brain just was not in brainstorming
Right.
mode." But that kid fixed every tiny little thing at the very end of the project and made his group's machine work amazing
Yes,
because that's what he was waiting for.
right, and and he knows that he's valuable
Correct.
in
Yes,
that
and it
moment.
really helped me to help the kids to understand that it's okay to not should yourself, right? Or don't should your friends. Don't expect that that student is gonna be awesome at brainstorming. That student's gonna be awesome at something else, and that's okay. We need all of the pieces in order to have this whole thing work together.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I think the people at the higher altitudes could possibly be more vocal. I know galvanizers are more vocal, and that it could seem like they are the shining stars, but for me, I m with wonder and discernment, I envy the ETs. I think they are doing the most, the best, the things that I desire to do. So the guilt and judgment is always in the back of my mind because not only am I possibly judging someone for showing up differently than me, but I'm also feeling guilt for not showing up like them. So, when you're offended by something, you should really go internal and see,
Right,
what
like,
that
why is
is.
that affecting me?
Yes,
Yep. Mhm.
exactly. So that
Yeah.
that is amazing, and I love the, activity that you shared, and I would like to give the audience an example. So we're gonna try this experiment,
Okay.
and we'll see where we get. Does that sound
Okay.
good? Okay.
Yes. So
Can you get your pencil and your paper, please?
hi.
Okay, so here, this is Miss Hannah.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm not in. I'll be right here.
Hi,
So
Hi, guys.
tell your name and your age.
Shiloh, 16. Oh, I'm Jocelyn and I'm 14.
Okay.
I'm Sayla and I'm 12. I'm
Okay.
Jessica and I'm 9.
Okay, cool. So you each have a piece of paper and a pencil? Okay. So do you see the screen here? There is a sandal on the side, and then there's this funky tool. It's like wire and, well, I don't really know what it is. There's some suction cups, there's a hinge there. So I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes. And on your paper, can you write wonder at the top of your paper? And you have 3 minutes to write down as many questions or wonders that you have about this thing. You're trying to figure out what it is and what it's used for. Okay, are you ready? Look at the tool itself. Here goes 3 minutes. Write down all the things you wonder about this thing. And you've got about 40 seconds left. Okay, so that's the timer. So stop whatever wonders you have. Do you have more than one piece of paper?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So take the wonder sheet and put it at like behind all the other ones. And on the next page, you're going to write invention. Okay, so it's the same tool. And you have 3 minutes to make a list of ideas of what you could use it for, what you think you might be able to do with it. You ready? Okay, go. 30 seconds.
Yeah, we're done.
Okay, cool. That's helpful. It's funny, 3 minutes is not that long when you're in a big group, you know? It's different on Zoom and with a smaller group. Okay, so now you're going to put your invention page on a table or on a place where everybody else can look at it. And let's say 2 minutes for this one. Um, you're going to look at everybody's idea and pick one. Pick the one that you think is the best one. So actually, you need a blank piece of paper and write discernment across the top.
Is everybody picking one or are they doing it as a group picking one?
Everybody's picking the one that they think is the best idea.
Okay.
Y'all don't have to agree on it. You just have to pick the one you think is the best one. This also says make a list of 3 reasons why it's your favorite idea. Okay, so that's the timer. We're going to switch into galvanizing. So if you have a new piece of paper, you're going to get that blank piece of paper and write galvanizing across the top.
Just write a G.
Or G, yeah, that works too. And the idea that you picked, that you wrote the reasons for why you would pick it, you have 3 minutes to write an advertisement or like a TV jingle to sell your idea. 3 minutes. Go. Okay, so that was 3 minutes. And now we need a volunteer who can say their jingle or their advertisement to the rest of the group. Anyone want to volunteer?
Okay.
Well-
Have you been looking for a cheap but neat holder, but all the other ones just don't have a vibe? Buy the wall holder. It holds clothes, it holds lamps, and it even holds toys. It's everything you want in a holder. Buy now at your local Lowe's.
That was awesome. Thank you. All right, who's next? Everybody's going to have to go, so
Okay, I got you.
all right, go for it.
Wouldn't life be easier if lamps floated, if they were close to your head at all times and easy to reach without having to bend down or buy a whole new piece of furniture to hold it up? That's where lamp holders come in. Just stick it to a wall and put your lamp in. Boom. Light anywhere you want it.
Fabulous.
A lot like
Thank
yours.
you. Who's next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
Get it why it's cheap so you don't have to buy a doorbell. It sticks right onto your door, the snapper.
Awesome.
You did good.
Yeah. Last one?
Buy our new and improved doohickey today. The doohickey has reinforced suction to stick to any wall. You can hang anything from pictures to towels on it. The new improved doohickey also moves with ease. You can move it around your house or take it on the go. Call now to get 50% off your doohickey today. Call 999-999-99999.
That was awesome. Okay. So that was the galvanizing. Okay, so now you need a new piece of paper. You could put a big E on the top or write enablement. And then based on the advertisement, you're going to decide the other idea, not the one that you decided on, but one of the other ideas because of the advertisement, which one you would like to support, and 3 reasons why you like the other idea. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah? Okay. So you've got 3 minutes.
We're done.
You good? Good? Okay, great. Okay, and last paper or, find a spot on your paper. You're gonna draw a T or, write the word tenacity, and we're gonna pretend that this idea that you have is you're gonna pitch it to, like, Target, and we're gonna see if we can get it on the shelf. So, you're gonna make a list of steps that you would need to take to get it on the store shelf. Okay? 3 minutes, go. We done?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so, um, we have a group conversation about, like, what are the things, which parts of this were fun for you? Which pages are full of ideas or full of things? Which sections were really, quick for you? And so they work through this reflection, and actually, you guys can all do this. Take some time to think about which pages of this project, you enjoyed doing, what parts you can do, and which parts are really hard for you.
Okay,
So
I'll go through that with them, and then
okay,
I'll
great.
record our, what we
Okay,
discover. Thanks,
okay.
ladies.
That's awesome.
All right, perfect. Oh my gosh, I love that so much.
It was
So
hard because I didn't know who was doing what, you know what I mean? Like, in a room, I'm walking around and watching, you know, I can quickly see, oh, that's their frustration because the page is blank, you know?
right, right.
Or, oh my gosh, this person has like 1,000 things written down.
Yes,
Yeah,
I saw even though JoJo's, my
yeah,
youngest, her, advertisement was very quick.
yeah,
She that's just how she kinda talks, that's her
yeah,
spunkiness, but
yeah.
she is the galvanizer
Yes.
in this family by far.
Yeah.
And then my tenacious one was at the end. She was the one that taken the
Somebody
longest
kept
on
writing and writing and
the
writing and writing and
tenacity.
writing. Yes.
Yes, yes. So uh I think this is a wonderful tool, and I'm gonna dissect it with them, and
Yeah,
then I'll
sure.
just record the results,
Well,
at the end of our podcast. But how often are you using this, technique? Do you do this every year? Do you do this with a project?
so it depends on, uh some of it depends on lessons that I'm doing. Some of it depends on the social emotional development of the grade level of class that I have, right? So I'm going to be doing it in a couple of weeks with the current 8th grade class because they are almost high schoolers. They're old enough to really understand this. I did it a couple years ago with our graduating seniors, which was
Okay.
super fun because they were about to leave and go on to the next thing. And they had known each other for a really long time.
Oh, right, right,
So
right. Because you use their insights on each other as
correct.
well.
The light bulbs were just going off all over the room, which is so fun for me as a teacher. And so it's not something that I'm like marketing and doing all the time, but in an organic space when I can use it, I use it.
Does it bring you joy to do this
Yes.
with people? Okay,
Yes. Can you
okay.
tell? So
Yeah.
fun. It's
Yes,
so fun.
I mean, if anything, I believe I mean, the IND, right? Like, working genius
Yes.
reveals to me your calling, and so you've invented something,
Yeah.
and you're able to use it to discern other people, right?
Yeah.
And who
Yes.
they are,
Yes.
so
Right. The
it
most recent one I did was with a giant group of volunteers at our church. And so for them, they don't work together all the time. They're part of different volunteer teams. But so much of the feedback I got after that workshop was like, oh my gosh, I've been like this my whole life and I never knew that that's why. Now I know I can lead with that and say, actually, I don't want to work with these kids. I'm not an E. I'm not, you know,
Right.
but I can
Right.
fold mailings because I'm a tenacity genius or, you know what I mean? So things like that. Yeah.
Yes, awesome. Okay, so aside from this activity, aside
Yeah.
from, what is currently bringing you joy in this season?
So I tell people that I'm a middle school teacher and they're like, "What on earth is wrong with you?" Well, no, they usually say, "God bless you."
Right. So I get the same
Yeah.
thing with homeschooling, right? So
And then I tell them that I'm a math teacher and they're like, "Oh my gosh." But I think that one of the things I love about middle school is that it's messy.
Oh,
It's the kids are a hot mess, right? You go through puberty in middle school, and 6th graders are really young and innocent still. And by the 7th grade is like the armpit of middle school. Everybody smells bad. Everybody's hormones are going crazy. Like it's horrible. But we still have to do this thing called school, right? And
mhm.
so as they mature into 8th graders, and then now my 8th graders they're getting ready to go to high school. They're maturing a lot more. I love watching my students move from um, unawareness to awareness.
Okay.
So
The growth.
that,
You get to see the full
yes,
growth.
yeah, right. And so like nothing grows and growth doesn't start in the light. It starts in the dark, right? So like middle school is the worst 3 years of everybody's life, right? So, but there's so much I guess what I would call incubation that happens in those 3 years of setting the stage for the next thing. So any time that I can speak life and joy and growth into my students is like my favorite thing. And for that watching them grow and to be able to say to me, "Oh, I know this is how God has gifted me. I really am gonna try to use this in my life," is just it's so life-giving to me because I'm just a tiny little piece of their story, right?
Right.
But coming alongside and being able to walk them through all of the junk that is middle school is awesome. I love it.
All right. That is awesome. That is a great way to end. Thank you for sharing your insights, and I hope that more people will begin using Working Genius in the education and also the church sector as well. I think it's definitely needed, so insightful, and I can't wait to share with others what you're doing with your invention and discernment. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
When's the last time you were working and completely lost track of time? Recently, this happened to me at a coffee shop. I was planning to work for a couple of hours, and 6 hours later, I realized I was still there. Not because I had to be, but because I was working in my working genius. What if more people got to work that way? That's the idea behind Enjoy Workforce Solutions. Recruiting built around how people are wired to work, so the right role energizes them, and your team feels the difference. Discover what that could look like for your organization. Visit Enjoy Workforce Solutions.